ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Rewind Wrestling Network, where I, your host, Ted, will be with my co-hosts, the New Mouth of the South, Tyler Peters, and the Brazilian Destroyer, Vinicius, as we talk all things professional wrestling happening in the professional wrestling world, the indies, the pros, everywhere you go. Let's get right into Rewind Wrestling Radio.
Welcome to Rewind Wrestling Radio. I am your host, Ted. No, wait, I'm not. I don't have an Eagles hat. I'm attractive. I look like an 80s villain. I am Vinicius. I am Nelly Acosta, and I am your host today, your special host. Ted is relaxing with his family. Wait, no, he's not. Unfortunately, Ted was caught with 450,000 Joe Biden ballots that he put in at 4 a.m. a couple months ago. So I guess I have to break the news to you. There's 20 electoral votes going to Trump now, and Ted might be in federal prison forever. But who knows what happens in the next couple of weeks? Maybe we get Ted back. Maybe we don't. But no matter what, the Rewind Wrestling Radio is going to go on. We have a wonderful guest today, Mr. Sean Raymond. He is a professional wrestler since 2004. He is the MagFest Hardcore Champion, and he's just a great guy. He's done a lot in wrestling, so he's with us today. Obviously, we have Ref Amy Pascaloni, CCW's main official. She calls it right down the middle. We have from the Buzz, we have Tyler Peters, the new Mouth of the South, obviously also cutting promos for Coastal Championship Wrestling and also cosplaying daily as Paul Bear. Tyler. Yes. And then, of course, the Temptress Witch in her cavern, the Temptress Witch, Ivy. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for watching, listening, however you're getting this Wrestling Rewind network and the Rewind Wrestling Radio, which is what you're listening to right now. Awesome. So thank you guys again. Quick plugs off the top of the house. January 9th at Fort Pierce, New Year's Revolution, Coastal Championship Wrestling. Amy will be there. I will be there. There's a couple matches that are going to be announced that we might do at the end of the show today, but definitely buy your tickets for that. They're available at ccwrestlingfl.com. But forget Florida wrestling. Let's talk about wrestling in Maryland. So Sean Raymond, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So Sean, you've been wrestling since 2004. Were you 12 years old? You're a young man right now.
I wish. No, I graduated high school in 2004, so I joined right out of high school.
So you started with EWA. Who are your original trainers?
So EWA, it's actually a fun story. EWA back then, the original trainers at the school at the time were a guy locally named Stevie Riggs and Ruckus.
Okay. And, Ruckus I've heard of.
Yeah. So
no, Scotty Riggs.
Yeah. But they were the two basic trainers. Stevie was like a long time, one of your regular indie guys had been around for a while, everything else. He was a solid worker, but fortunately never really made it anywhere. But I trained with them for a while, and then MCW decided that they were going to slowly come back because they had shut their doors for about 3 years, and they started help training people too. And that's where I'm going to, get this out of the way early to give a quick plug to rest in peace for RJ Meyer, aka he was known as the Bruiser. He was a big guy in Maryland up here. He did a lot with Maryland Championship Wrestling, multi-time champion and all, but him and Dan McDevitt for a short time, and Jim Christian, who's the owner of EWA, they all helped out with some training early on in 2004, 2005. So, that was a lot of my training at that school. And then I was lucky enough to get on the road a bit without jumping around too much with a good friend of mine named Marcus Dowling, and he had a good connection with Steve Corino. So I actually got to work with Carino pretty much early off when I was very green.
Mr. Old School himself.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're saying too is it's horrible, for them to pass. But I think something with wrestling trainers is their legacies always will live on in those that they've trained. So anytime that you're in the ring, anytime those that they have trained that they put out there still wrestle, their legacy can live on forever. It's important.
Oh yeah, and getting back to Bruiser for 1 second there, I mean, he trained a lot of guys at MCW, a lot of guys that that have made it big. Velveteen Dream is a guy that he trained.
Wow.
Really?
Leo Rush is a guy that he trained.
Wow,
Leo, if you
yeah.
look at his social media, has put up a whole bunch of stuff to get him over and everything else.
Yeah, so especially guys that young, his
Mhm.
legacy will live on basically forever.
Mhm.
Professional wrestling's crazy. All of us are involved in professional wrestling, in one way or another, whether it's actually in the ring, or Tyler, who gets in the ring and then immediately is thrown out of it. Sean, what made you want to get into such an insane business?
Well, like I said, big fan, of wrestling. Basically, I had a couple older cousins that got me into it at a very young age. Did the thing that we weren't ever supposed to do, that backyard thing. Started doing that at 11 years
Yeah.
old with the cousins. Got into it more with friends in high school.
Well, do you remember your backyard name? Do you remember your first backyard name? Was it really bad or something like dirty?
So my first backyard name was the Neo Taker. It was
Okay.
terrible. And then I came up with a moniker that I actually ended up using on the Indies when I first started out, which was simply Refreshing Sean Raymond.
Okay. Now, Neo Taker, did you wear the Matrix jacket? Were you a Matrix fan? Were you a big Matrix fan? Is that where it's from?
So it was a very, very bad idea of trying to cross over the stylistic ideas of Raven mixed with the Matrix, mixed with the Undertaker, because I had the stupid purple gloves.
I love it.
Terrible backyard gimmicks. But probably not the worst thing I've ever done in wrestling either.
Yeah, it might have worked, man. You never know. You could have probably just held out and it would have worked.
No, the worst gimmick that I ever got, God love him, was there was a guy in Delaware named Massive Mike that I worked for. And he came up with this great idea to make my pale Irish ass a masked Japanese wrestler named the Great Kitsune.
Cool.
I love it. You're strong style. I love it. Tyler, you have some questions for the wonderful Sean Raymond.
Yes, Sean, I was going to ask you, speaking of getting into wrestling, I know I ask this question all the time. Who was some of your influences, your favorite wrestlers growing up?
My favorite wrestlers growing up, by far and wide, the biggest ones to me were, I liked the technical guys at the time. So Mr. Perfect was huge for me. Owen Hart, I loved Owen Hart, Shawn Michaels, I loved the cockiness of Shawn Michaels back then. Then you get out of WWF, and you get over to stuff like Raven that I just mentioned. I loved Raven. I liked his whole psychology. Him, going back a little bit more, Macho Man and Piper. I loved what they did. So they were a lot of the influences. And then when I got in and started doing more tape trading and getting to know other things, love the Great Muta. Love a lot of All Japan. That's how I got big with Steve Corino before I got to go to Corino's school.
And then you just stopped liking him, or what? Like, I was a huge fan. Then I went to his school, and oh, I can't even stand him.
Forget
him. No, he's actually a really cool guy. I mean, he still is a cool guy. And the crazy thing is that
seems like it.
I haven't really gotten a chance to talk to him probably in the better part of 10 years because people go their separate ways. I hit him up earlier this year for his birthday, and he still remembers exactly who the hell I am, asking me how I'm doing, this, that, awesome. The other thing.
Yeah, very nice.
You left an impact, and I love that you love Great Muta, because of Great Muta, I literally walk around 24 hours a day with a green mist pill in my mouth just in case I'm at the bank or something, somebody pisses me off. So let's go to Amy. Amy, you got some questions for the great Sean Raymond?
Yeah. Sean, so as myself, someone's just starting out in the wrestling business, do you have any advice for those up and coming wrestlers just getting their training in?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I can honestly say is always remember where you came from and stay humble. Stay humble. It doesn't matter how long you've been in. It doesn't matter how many dues you've paid. There's always something new that you can learn in the business. Even if somebody else, does something differently than you, if you go to a seminar and they tell you, hey, you're supposed to do a hip toss this way instead of, the way that your trainers tell you. Yeah, do it their way where you're at their seminar, but, see what works better for you. Create a hybrid of the two. Make it your own style. Don't forget where you came from when you do get to a bigger place, that's how you keep friends. You don't want to like shut the door on anything, try not to avoid heat, especially now, like it's
Yeah.
funny to me because I did take a break for a while because of injury, everything else. We can get into that in a little bit later, but the last 2.5 years I've been back, it's a lot different, but I like where the business is now. I like where the boys are now because, yeah, while you still get your occasional ribs and your jokers and everything else like that, it does feel much more like family in most of the places that I'm working now, back behind the scenes, than it did back in 2004, 2005, where it felt like, okay, I got my crew that I travel with, but this is dog eat dog world, we're taking this pie and there's nothing left for the rest of you guys, like screw you guys, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that way, Yeah, you're out there to make gimmicks, you're out there to make money. That's still the number one thing, don't get me wrong. The number one thing in wrestling, you're trying to sell yourself. That's what you are. You're trying to sell your gimmick, you're trying to sell your products, you're trying to get yourself over. But at the end of the day, it works a lot better to just remember to stay humble and know where you came from, because those guys, you never know who you might be in the ring with, I had a chance of training with Adam Cole. Look at where he's at these days, Like, you never know who you train with. So,
Yeah, for the people at home, Adam Cole is Britt Baker's boyfriend. The Temptress.
Oh, the Temptress. Well, Sean Raymond, so we meet again, huh?
it's always fun.
The only question that I have is I would just like to know how it feels to have defeated me in a promo battle.
Well, no offense to you. Yours was good. Venetia's was good. But when you've been around and you get to be as old as I am and curmudgeon as I am, you actually get that, you know how to cut, basically know the cues, and that's stuff that I'll tell people off air, because I know kayfabe's dead, but I'm one of those people that likes to keep things to where you come down to a school to learn that. You come here to learn that, or a seminar. I don't want to give that away on a podcast.
Exactly.
True, man. But I think your point of just having a lot of, like vitriol and piss and vinegar inside of you to just release during a promo, on demand. It takes years. It takes years to get all of that, hatred built up. No, but it is an art, So congratulations on winning that, for sure. And Ivy, there's always next year. Actually,
Listen, no,
Ivy, there's always next pandemic. Next time a global pandemic happens. Yeah.
Next time COVID runs around, or COVID-20 instead of COVID-19.
Exactly.
To be fair, I'm still waiting for, my little, paper trophy or whatever.
For your check, right?
Yeah.
That's Ted's department. The check.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. He might have to handle that after he gets out of prison.
Yeah, exactly. If he can get out of federal prison for rigging the vote in Pennsylvania, Ted.
Well, if he rigged the vote, maybe he rigged the promo battle too, so I might still have a chance, right?
Oh yeah, we're gonna need a recount. So call the Supreme Court. I think they're gonna go 5-4 to Ivy on that one.
I knew it was underhanded.
Thank you, Tyler.
You
Everybody
did have
hit with the requiem. 1, 2, 3, it's done.
You did have a spinal injury that I'd love to talk about, because it's so interesting that what you had gone through. But first, we're going to go to a commercial about Coastal Championship Wrestling, CCW, live wrestling, among some other things. Going to give us a break. I'm probably going to go and drink some scotch, and I'm going to replace my Muda mist. It's getting a little dry in there. So we'll be right back with Rewind Wrestling Radio.
For 17 years, the dominant force in professional wrestling in South Florida has been Coastal Championship Wrestling. Join us every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the best weekly episodic professional wrestling in America. This week on a live wrestling episode 12, the CCW Women's Champion Marina Tucker defends against the Chilean international sensation Roma. Don't you dare miss it.
And we are back with Rewind. Wrestling Radio. Ivy's just disappearing. Tyler is going to be freezing. But most importantly, we're back with Sean Raymond. Sean, you mentioned earlier that you had a spinal injury in 2013 that caused you to retire. So it's 9 years in the business. You get a spinal injury. Your daughter was also born at the same time. You decided to call it a career?
So basically, another thing going back to what we were talking about, or Amy's question, don't be afraid to say no. It doesn't matter even if you're 9 years in, 10 years in, whatever. Don't be afraid to tell somebody no. So I was working in Delaware. I forget the name of the promotion, but I was working a guy that was basically, to give comparison of size, he was probably about as tall as the Murder Hawk, if you want to talk about that, but probably built as big as Brian Cage. So the guy's finish was a Razor's Edge, Celtic Cross, powerbomb. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, I can take that. This guy's going to be easy with it. No, he went the way that Hernandez used to do it in Impact and chucked me across the ring. So as he chucked me across the ring, I bounced in a way that basically killed my lower back. And, threw out a disc in my lower back. So I'm laying there and I know something's wrong. And, I go through the next, being, the idiot that I am, I go through the next 5 minutes of the match, to get to the finish, everything else, because, we were in a tag match. So get out, get to the back, know something's wrong, basically talk to the guys that I had rode up there with. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, you know what? I'm like, this is shit. I was like, my daughter was just born in March. This is June. It's been 2 months in, later. I'm like, man, I got to take a break. I can't be doing this. I can't be killing myself on this. I got my real job that now that I don't know if I'm going to be able to do anything right now. So it's just, it was not a good headspace to be in, So it was not a good headspace at all to be in with all that. But
sometimes, like you said, sometimes you just need a break. But sometimes you need some time off, your head to clear and your body to improve, you know what I mean?
But then as well as I do, Vinicius, that you always have that. You have that way that you want to go out. You know that right in the back of your head. There's always that way that when it's your time, you want to go out in a certain way. And that's where it was. A couple of years go by, and I'm having that itch. It's like, I don't want this to be the end of it. I don't want this to be the end of it. Well, maybe I don't have to be in the ring anymore. Maybe I can just go be around wrestling and help out with stuff. So I go and I start helping out with a couple of friends, that were running smaller promotions. I go to help out in the back. I go to help out running sound. I go to help out, doing all kinds of little things, doing commentary for some of the guys' matches. Yeah.
Then you realize when you get close to the ring, then you're just going to get in the ring, of course.
Yeah,
right? That's
a
foregone conclusion.
That was the mistake. So that all happened. And then I'm sitting there and I'm in my best friend Mark's house one night. It's him and I got two best friends. So it's me and neither one of them are in the business. But my buddy Mark is sitting there and he's just like, I know I'm old right now. He's like, I know I'm in my 30s. I know I missed the mark. But he's like, I'm always jealous of the fact that you actually went and made yourself a professional wrestler. He's like, but I saw that EWA is doing a free tryout. He's like, I want to go down. He's like, would you be willing to go down with me? To see my tryout and everything else. I'm like, yeah, I'll go with you. Sure, I'm down, So I get to talking to, Jim and some of the people who know me from my run down in the past. And it's just like, I end up doing a free tryout too. And then I start realizing this is my body being out of, yes, I got ring rust, but it's like, oh shit, I can still do this.
Of course, yeah.
Oh, everything's coming back natural. Go back to the doctors, get a full thing, got a clean bill of health, everything else. Spine's okay, everything else at this point now, because it's been, 4 years, 5 years. So everything's good. So next thing I know, I turn around and I'm working my ass off 3-4 days a week again to get back in the ring shape. And within 2 months of going back to the school, I'm already back on shows again for them.
That's awesome. And it's been 2 years now that you've been doing your thing.
Yeah. 2 years ago.
It's funny you mentioned that moment, that how you want your career to end moment. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I think, do you ever watch the movie The Wrestler?
Oh yeah.
I want to go out coming off the top rope onto Ernest Miller and just dying. I just want to hurt the cat with a big elbow drop, and then I'll be dead in the ring. And so now everybody knows that. So just make sure. No, but I know that there's, you didn't want your last thing to be taking a botched razor's edge, from a guy who might have been, a little dangerous and stuff. So that's great. It's good that you're back, and it's good that your body's good. And you're a young man. You're still a young man in your early mid-30s. Goldberg just won the title at 53. I say that I have 22 years left to win the SmackDown championship or whatever.
I always make the joke, DDP got in at 38.
Yep, exactly. So. Exactly. I wanted to ask you a question about the great James Ellsworth. You knew him when he was a younger man. And did he have a chin back then, or did he never have a chin? Is the question. That's just the question. I don't need to know anything about Ellsworth. Because I'm going to work with him soon. Actually, I'm going to be working with Ellsworth as soon as possible. But did he have a chin back then in his younger days?
Ellsworth never had a chin. Actually, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things that this, that, the other thing we're not going to touch. But I've known the boy for a long time, or I should say man, because he's 2 years older than me. But, first off, I don't care if you hate him. I don't care if you're best friends with him.
He's working every single weekend in Tennessee, in Grimsley, and in Nashville, and in some places.
Well,
people still love him,
I don't care if people hate him. I don't care if people love him. At the end of the day, respect the fact that this guy got to walk down the ramp at WrestleMania, which is something that we all dream about doing, matter what.
6 months of SmackDown was like Ellsworth mania. He cut a great promo to any man with two hands gives a chance. He becomes Ellsworth. He was a 1 count away from becoming the champion, and that was a guy with no chin, with a pale skinned body who didn't, he was not you never would have thought it happened. So you have to give him that respect to have gotten there, and he took the opportunity,
So I give one story with him that ties into something else that, you were bringing up. But there was a good 2 years there where we were working up at a place in Pittsburgh called Undisputed Championship Wrestling. They were like right there in Uniontown. And our car going up, it was him at the time. He was known as Jimmy Dream. He had his tag team partner who was known as Adam Ugly, so they were pretty ugly. We also had Axel Rotten going with us.
That's great.
Yeah, we also had Axel Rotten going with us because Axel was his trainer and Adam's trainer.
Wow, yeah.
And then it was my manager, Marcus Dowling, and myself. And up there, I was known as Sean Green because I was basically doing a gimmick where I was impersonating Tom Green and coming out and doing my whole goofy show and everything else like this.
That's great. You do look like Tom Green. You do look like Tom Green. I love it.
The whole thing that was made it fun is that our whole little group was literally called Pretty Ugly, Rotten, and Green.
I love it. Isn't wrestling great? It was a wordplay of professional wrestling. You also worked with during the beginning, during the early stages of what would become CZW. I think we've all seen those crazy pictures of Moxley where he just has curly hair and he's just a skinny kid. I assume that's about the time when you had kind of knew the Death Rider, right? Like any passing stories of Jon Moxley? Now the Prince of Canada marrying the Princess Renee Paquette.
So there's actually a couple stories that can tie into CZW. So at the time in EWA, one of the biggest guys on our roster at the time was Drew Gulak. And Drew Gulak would ride places with DJ Hyde. So they would come down and they would train a lot with us at EWA, everything else. And every Wednesday night, they now have what's known as the CZW Dojo Wars. Used to be known as the Maven Bentley Association, because Maven Bentley would run his own little shows. And they were free shows. Nobody got paid, but you go up and it was good exposure. And if you worked hard enough, you could get on CZW. I mean, I'm on 2 CZW shows from like 2006 for like Battle Royals, so yay me for that.
Yeah, so you heard it here first. CZW legend Sean Raymond on Rewind Wrestling Radio.
Yeah, right. No, the coolest thing I'll tell about that, and then I'll get backtrack to Jon Moxley, is the one show was really cool because it was the Cash Memorial Show. So we're doing the Battle Royal at the time. It's like 2006. And I'm just, to go back and look at the names that are on that show. It was, Claudio, who's now Cesaro, Chris Hero, Moxley,
Wow.
just like a ton of people. It's like at the heyday where we're at like the height. Ellsworth's on the show. He's in the Battle Royal with me for the running joke in that one.
That's awesome.
But no, the NBA was really great because, another downer moment for another rest in peace is that some of the stuff that I got to do on NBA was right around the time when Moxley was coming up doing the whole Death Rider stuff that you're saying. But it's also around the time when Danny Havoc was starting out. And Danny Havoc was getting really big. And the crazy, sorry, Ted, but the crazy fucking shit that those guys would do for death matches and everything else and take it to the next level was just insane. Like, prior to them and, Zandig with the Weed Whacker.
Right.
But it's like prior to that, basically most of the death matches I ever saw was mainly, light tubes, tacks, this, that.
Some barbed wire,
Yeah, these guys are doing the cinder blocks and everything you see now in GCW and
right, and ICW and everything. Yeah. That was the time where kind of the current death match scene. I mean, hasn't been much. You can't push it much forward than taking a cinder block to the head, or jumping off a second story building onto a bed of a truck with Joey Janela on your back or whatever. Those were times that were pretty. You pushing things pretty forward.
The one a couple of years ago, didn't work it, but I went to a CDW Tournament of Death just to hang out and watch them jump off the top of a trailer onto a trampoline of barbed wire.
Nice.
Yeah, that was pretty.
And Moxley and Ambrose kind of did that bed of barbed wire spot on AEW. I guess you know what I'm talking about. Double or Nothing this year.
Yeah.
That was crazy too. To bring you would have never saw that on TNT. Obviously, I think the barbed wire was worked on TNT because they weren't bloody messes, but it was something
you're
to
talking
see.
about last year's
Double or Nothing.
No, it was the one that was here in
Full
Baltimore.
Gear.
Full Gear.
It was Full Gear last
It was,
year.
it was last year's
This
Full
global
Gear.
pandemic has messed my time up.
Yeah. It was November
100 years
last year,
ago.
because I was at the show live. That's why. And actually, there's a funny story about that show because the only thing that makes that show really funny to me is my brother, who's not a big wrestling fan at all, ended up going last minute with a couple of friends of his that are the bar scene. Somehow ends up getting front row tickets, completely and totally tanked, and is standing right there slapping Moxley on the back as he's coming down for his entrance.
What a moment.
Oh, it had me cracking up because I rewound it back about 20 times and sent it to him and everybody else in the family. I'm like, I'm here hanging out, and yet you're the one that's on the screen right now.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Definitely. I love it. I love moments like that where, you just see the craziest thing in professional wrestling. But awesome. Talking about crazy things in professional wrestling, nothing happened in wrestling this week. It's been such a slow news week. Nothing ever happens in professional wrestling. No, for this week, for this week's in wrestling, I think there's something that's going to completely monopolize. There's three things actually that are going to completely monopolize really what's going on in wrestling this week. And I'm going to start with the Stinger, Steve Borden. He's not a young man. 61 years old or 62 years old. He's not a young man, but he definitely was incredibly impactful to watch him debut on AEW, and the way that they did it, I think it sets it up, Cody, Darby, Arn Anderson, and Sting against Taz and Starks and Hobbs, and I think I liked that. But you guys first, tell me what you guys felt about the debut, let alone the implications of where all this is going. Let's go to the mouth of the South, Tyler Peters. Tell me what you thought about the debut.
I think it makes sense because, we heard the WWE contract was running out, so they were always rumors. But I was marking out. I was surprised. I was going back thinking I was watching a little bit of Nitro. I know it sounds funny, but I was like, Sting, my gosh, he's coming out. But it makes sense. Darby Allin, he could be a manager. He don't have to get physical being 61. I think he's just his presence. He's got that.
But that's a great question. We saw DDP earlier this year. Is Sting going to get back in the ring? What do you think, Tyler?
I don't know. I think he could still do things. I don't think he can do the dangerous bumps because
Mm.
it
I
wasn't
said it
Seth's
earlier.
fault.
I said the first match he needs to come back. It's a buckle bomb match.
Oh,
First
come
one
on,
to first
yeah.
1 to 25 buckle bombs
Yeah,
wins.
sure.
Why not?
And Tyler Black will debut.
Yeah, exactly. As soon
Yeah,
as
sure.
Seth
Sounds
Tyler
like
Black.
great booking. My God.
No,
Great.
but finish your thought, Tyler. What do you think about just the debut in general and Willie Russell?
Well, I think Tony Schiavone and JR really helped it too because they have such a history with him
Yeah.
going back to WCW. And that Nitro, they reminded us the timeline. This has been since March 2001. And, you know, the Rhodes family has a history with Sting and Arn Anderson. So I think Sting's always been great with psychology because he learned from the best with Ric Flair. So I go back to the NWA days, the early WCW career of the Stinger, and I think it was awesome. I just was a huge Sting fan, so I'm going to be partial, even if people don't get it, because I saw where everybody's like, well, why are you complaining about Goldberg? Now AEW is bringing Sting, but you know what?
Who's complaining about Goldberg?
No, I just saw something I post. It's not like I'm, you know,
I saw
read
it.
that
Hey,
or reporting that.
If
But
somebody complains about Goldberg, you send them my way, okay?
yeah, because I like Goldberg. I
I'll
guess I'm
complain
in the
about
minority
Goldberg
because
too.
No,
Ruined Bret
Sean,
Hart.
don't please. You've been such a
that's my
great guest so
fandom,
far.
man. That's
Don't ruin this and
yeah.
say
Well,
anything.
go
about
ahead, Sean. I'm ready to get.
I'm kidding.
He's gonna.
Let's go.
promo
But
me.
first, okay, I'll kick it to Sean. We'll talk a little bit about Goldberg.
Yeah.
But first, I'd love to know from the Temptress what she felt about this amazing debut and will he wrestle?
Okay. First of all, I'm always happy to see Sting in the ring. I love him. Just like you said, his presence is just like, you know, one of those things. It's really nostalgic for me. I mean, I grew up on Sting. So I think it's great that he's back. It does make sense. And I could see him, you know, in a few matches, but again, given his age, you know, he's definitely not where he used to be. So I kind of would hope that this is going to be like his last ride and that they do it the proper way for him.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think you hit it on the head. I think a couple matches.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can think of a few different opponents for Sting already. A few obvious opponents. But I think we'll probably see a couple matches.
At least a couple, maybe nothing too crazy, but, you know, just to kind of give him the good, you know, push out there and give him final farewell.
Yeah. Amy, I'm going to ask the same thing, obviously, to you. Or no, let's go to Sean next. But let's add this rider. There wasn't a big crowd there. Did that affect the debut at all? And first, Sean, like, did you feel about the debut? Do you think he will wrestle? And then debuting him without such a big crowd, what do you think?
So the first thing I thought when I initially saw the screen go black and the thing is, oh my God, they signed Glacier.
Ray
No.
Lloyd, man, he is a great guy.
No,
Wrestles for
joke,
CCW. Go ahead.
joke aside, no, the getting into the
Huge
comparison-
conspiracy guy. He is a huge conspiracy guy. He really he'll be at the White House fighting Secret Service agents on January whatever when they're going to try to get the big guy out of there. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah. But,
We love you, Ray. We love you. Can't wait to have you back.
To go with what Tyler was saying, no, what a lot of people are bitching about online is that there was like they don't want it to be another Goldberg. It's because they don't want to think this thing's going to come back and win the world title like they did with Goldberg or the Fiend. And
Mhm.
I don't think that that's going to be a case at all. I think this is a scenario where he may work a match or two because he doesn't want to go out much like I talked about injury. He doesn't want that Rollins match to be his last match that you ever saw of Stinger. So I think he'll work a match or two, but I think they're going to utilize him in a way like you were saying with somebody like a Darby Allin or a couple other people, the same way that they've already utilized Tully Blanchard and Jake Roberts and other old guys on the show to try to get over this younger talent. And I think that that's basically the huge thing that they're going to do with that. And why not? The man basically was the face of TNT. So, you know, look at WCW back in the day, everything else, and like Tyler was saying too, putting over all that history, it makes a huge thing. It makes a huge impact for AEW.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I think so. I'm going to be playing devil's advocate to everybody in about a second, but Ref Amy Veronica, tell me, what did you think about the Sting entrance? Do you think he'll wrestle? And what about barely any crowds on a debut like that?
Well, I have to be honest with you. I haven't popped so hard for a debut or a return of an older wrestler since probably AJ Styles turned to the WWE. Like
Wasn't that
even
old, Amy? Sorry, go ahead. It was like
But
AJ Styles
he's-
61. What are you talking about? Go ahead.
he's in his 40s.
Edge Royal Rumble.
Yeah, it was the Royal Rumble. Go ahead though. I was there.
But
No,
yeah,
saying
like
Edge.
even knowing
I was hoping it was Scott Steiner. Sorry, go ahead.
even knowing that he was it had already, because of course I go on my phone like an idiot and see like, oh, Sting's there. I'm like, oh shit.
No, we
But
were at practice. I think we probably found out at the same time.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
because they started messaging in the group chat, and I was like, well, anyway, go ahead. It was
But
horrible.
so even watching like the recorded version, I still got like chills across my hand watching the promo. And I think another thing, I don't think the lack of crowd affected it much, because I don't know, there's rumors going around that Tony Schiavone didn't even know. And he was freaking out on commentary. So that added to it as well. And so I think just the entire atmosphere, you didn't even notice that there wasn't a crowd because you got excited.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a wonderful debut, and I was waiting for someone to say that, is that the way that it was produced, where it was dark and the shots were very close, didn't need the crowd. And the crowd that was there, a lot of them being wrestlers, they were freaking out, and they didn't know either. You know, I know firsthand because I asked a couple guys who were in the crowd, they had no idea, and so that was cool. And then I like what they did with Darby Allin, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I see a couple things that are going to happen with Sting already. Okay. So I love Sting. I love Surfer Sting. I loved early Sting. I loved, so I'm not giving it I love all of Sting. I love obviously the Crow Sting. I love Joker Sting. I love all Stings.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. I love Sting. But this is not my own opinion, but here's something that I think is going to happen here, is that the nostalgia of Sting might not prove to be exactly what people remember it as. I think people who actually watched and were there with Sting's career sometimes is there's a little bit of a gray cloud over a lot of the stuff that he did. Sting had a very difficult time before 1989, and Ric Flair definitely carried him through those early matches. And then if you watch, it was 2 bad Sting matches as champion, and then Ric Flair again would pull out a wonderful match. So early Sting, there was that. Then Sting became a great, amazing worker, elite top worker, and they didn't have guys to put him where he needed to be. Then Hulk Hogan shows up, he goes to the back. He goes to the background. And then the greatest thing that could have ever happened, he needed a year off. He had things going on. So he puts on the black and white face paint. It's the greatest year of Sting's life, and he's not even wrestling. And then when he comes back, it's one of the worst botched endings of an angle that you possibly could do with a fake 3 count. I remember as a kid, I was just like, what is this? He just lost the match. And then Bret Hart comes in, and then him joining the Wolfpack, it was a missed opportunity. It's not like as great as people remember it. And then after that, he had his best work in TNA. So these people are imagining a Sting that might not have ever existed at this point in some ways. Okay. That being said, in 2, in 3, in 4, and 5 months, because he has a multi-year contract, because he's going to be out there, they're going to be using him as much as possible. I think, again, the reality of Sting is going to be a lot different than our anticipation of what's going to happen. I think he's going to have matches with Chris Jericho. I think he's going to have a match with MJF. And I think he'll probably have a match with Cody Rhodes. Why wouldn't he? So I think he'll have a few matches, and I think they'll be decent matches because it's Sting. But we'll see. Now, the real me is I was really stoked. I freaking love Sting. I'm a complete optimist. I think it's going to be great. But there's that, that I wanted to play devil's advocate on that one. That being said, after that, Jon Moxley's held the belt for a really, really long time, and he loses it to Kenny Omega in this weird, I don't even know, like in a very strange way. I don't want to influence what you guys are going to say. So Jon Moxley loses to Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega has been teasing the Cleaner, the best bout machine, the greatest wrestler in the world today. So my questions to you guys are, what did you feel about the match? What do you feel about the ending? And is Kenny Omega the greatest wrestler in the world today? And I will start with Sean.
So here's my whole deal. When you go to the match itself, I thought the match was pretty good for what they could do with everything. I like the fact that they started to blend that line like a lot of things are starting to do, because Kenny Omega, Don Callis do have a history, very much so. For those that don't know, Don Callis is the executive vice president for Impact Wrestling. He was the one that was in last night that gave Kenny the microphone during the match to hit Moxley with. And he's the one, that's getting Omega to show up on Impact on Tuesday night upcoming, which I know you're probably segueing into something else here, but I'm a fan of companies working together.
No,
This
don't
is
talk
some-
about that yet. We're gonna. That's the
Okay.
last thing. Just talk about the match.
Yeah.
And is Kenny Omega the best wrestler in the world? We're gonna get
Okay.
to what the next part. I think is the meatiest part of it all.
So I think that Kenny is definitely, if he's not the number one guy in the world anymore, after everything he did with Okada a few years ago, I definitely think he's still top 3. But right now, I feel like where he was when him and Okada were having those matches a couple of years ago is kind of where McIntyre is right now on Raw. I feel like McIntyre really is probably the top guy right now because to me, just watching his work, he's on a different level than anybody else. And that's not to take a slight at Kenny. I do think that he's still the cleaner. I do think that he's still very crisp in what he's done. But I'm excited because I think that we're going to start seeing the stuff that he did in New Japan now. Because I don't think he's done that much the last 2 years. I think he's given people a chance before he.
Why do you think it took so? I mean, why did it think it took so long? Did Kenny Omega just like? There's certain guys that just we found out years later that they don't care. Like this, did something happen with Kenny Omega where for the last 2 years he just didn't care about having the matches that he had a 5-star match with Okada. He had 5-star matches with a lot of guys in Japan over and over. Every week he was the best bout machine. And then he came to AEW and it seemed like he didn't care about that very much. What do you think about that? Like, what were your coming as a wrestler? Like, what are your thoughts on someone who has it and then it seems like they didn't care? Maybe?
So I don't think it was the fact that he never cared. I think it was the fact that he was sitting there and he's just like, okay, I know that I'm the guy, but I'm also an executive VP. I'm also putting this company out there. I don't want to be, what my competition is and putting the belt on me right away. I want to worry about getting this women's division up because our competition has the best women's division in the entire planet. I think he was worried more about doing stuff behind the scenes and just, hey, I'll be around, but I'm going to do some other stuff. Get me in a tag team. Let me do some stuff. Yada, yada, yada. Help get some other guys over.
I think that's a great point with the EVP, and I think that Cody Rhodes is the polar opposite. I think Cody Rhodes stepped up his game when he became an EVP, and Kenny Omega completely. And I think it might just be because Cody Rhodes is the son of a plumber, and I think when you have the genetics of Dusty Rhodes, when Dusty Rhodes was in charge, holy cow, unbelievable. And when he wasn't, he was just out there doing his best, So that might mean a lot. Tyler Peter. Amy, Veronica, right down the middle. Kenny Omega, what did you think about the match? What did you think about it? And is Kenny Omega the greatest wrestler in the world today?
So yeah, this wasn't spoiled for me, so I got to go into this blind watching it. I thought the match was amazing. I love the psychology they were working at. The commentators were constantly putting over that outside the ring is Jon Moxley's area, whereas if Kenny wants to beat him, he has to beat him inside the ring. That's Kenny's strengths. I love that they were putting that over. The ending, I'm on the fence about because I do agree that you want to keep Moxley strong. So having that interference from Don Callis is a good thing. But I'm not a fan of those kind of endings. But all around, it was a great match. And I'm really happy to see Kenny Omega as champion because I want to see the next step in the Hangman Omega chronicle that they're building right now. I know it's probably a year from now because that's one thing AEW is doing really well is long-term storytelling, but I'm excited to start that next chapter of that feud.
Awesome. Yeah, great points. Let's go to the mouth of the South, Tyler Peters.
I think one reason they did the Omega Callis partnership and these companies are kind of doing this cross promotion because think about it, Wednesday nights have not been very competitive with NXT, and I love all the brands, but
we're not talking about we're about to talk about that part. What did you think of the match? Is Kenny Omega Just jump the gun, Tyler.
I know I couldn't help myself. I thought it was playing in the
It's
storyline. My bad.
exciting.
Where's
It
my
is.
coffee? No, I'm just kidding. No, the match was great.
Where's your Adderall, Tyler?
Yeah, exactly. But no, now you got me all messed up. But Kenny Omega was great in the ring. You know, John Moxley, great match. But this is what Kenny Omega needed, an edge. And I kind of like the Callis deal. I know everybody was kind of back and forth on it, but once again, the commentary was great. JR, you know, saying scalded dogs, just like the Attitude Era. Great stuff.
Mhm.
Just awesome.
That
This
part was great.
highlights.
You're right.
Yeah.
But is Kenny Omega the best wrestler in the world, Tyler?
No, he's very good. I respect him, but I hate to sound like Jim Cornette, but he's a little overrated. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, Tyler Peters is a Paul Lee guy. Paul Lee's the top guy in the world. Okay, so just I think Kenny
The
Omega
Nate
is
Chapel.
still. I love Paul Lee. Come back CCW, brother. I love you. Woo!
Paulie, yeah.
Kenny Omega is still the best wrestler in the world. I don't know what happened. I think actually Sean probably hit it right in the head is when he took those responsibilities of the women's division and that type of stuff. He might have done it. Let's go to Ivy though. Is Kenny Omega the best in the world?
No.
What do you think of the match?
I think he's very good. He's very good. I do respect him. He's not my favorite. I like Moxley with the title, but I kind of, understand, once again, like the way the match played out and stuff. I do think they have good potential with what they, may end up pushing with Omega. But I can't say it's like a match that I was like super drawn into personally. I don't like when matches end with like that interference type thing. But overall it was good. I don't think he's the best wrestler in the world though.
Who is?
I said I don't think he is the best.
No, but who is?
But, oh God, I don't know.
I'm trying to think too. I mean, I think it's him.
Listen,
Okada's up
you guys
there.
know my answer anyway, because I've already marked out a couple times about my man Jeff Hardy, but that's
Okay.
I'm biased there.
I could see that. He's so charismatic. He's a
I'm
pretty
glad-
guy too,
Sorry to jump off on Segway, but she brought Jeff Hardy. Dude, that man has got a horseshoe up his ass because that spot on Monday night, my God.
Jesus, yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
my man.
We all know you love him. That's your crush.
Listen, you don't even understand the level of love that I have for that man. I could go on and on. We will run out of time.
He's the new Sting, with the face paint.
Hey.
But yeah, I'm trying to think who is the best wrestler in the world. I think there are some. Obviously, AJ Styles is always in the conversation, and there's a lot of like even. Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, you have Okada, you have Kenta, you have other guys too. So.
What about Rollins? You think
No.
he's up there? You don't think he's up there?
No.
Like I said, I still got to defend McIntyre with everything he's done.
Oh
in the
yeah,
last year.
McIntyre. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I went to the restroom with McIntyre one time. He was next to me in the urinal. He's all of 6'5", very thick guy, Yeah, but I think the most important thing that came out of Wednesday night was the final angle of Callis and Omega running. And it's, hey, you'll find out on Tuesday night, Impact Wrestling on Access TV. And that kind of finally clued us into this relationship. We saw Callis there before. We know that the NWA, and we're going to have one of the producers of Primetime Live who are producing NWA Shockwave with us next week. But we know that the NWA has been flirting with Tony Khan, at least flirting, if not making out, second base, whatever that is anymore, with AEW. So now it looks like Impact, NWA. We know that New Japan has had overtures to Impact Wrestling. So you have New Japan, Impact Wrestling. You know that everybody has been talking about Moxley and Kenta. He is the IWGP United States champion still, due to global pandemic. So we do realize now that you have all those companies in this very interesting weave of wrestling. Where is this going? Is it good for wrestling? And I'm going to go to Sean first because I think he has a very strong opinion on it.
Yeah. I'm all for it. I've always said it for years because, this is a thing that I would hope that Triple H is smart about after Vince is gone with the booking.
And let me say something before you continue. Triple H on his investor call, on the media call today, said that the WWE World Wrestling Entertainment is open to working with rival promotions, whatever the hell that means. So continue.
Because I've always sat there and I always thought, and this is a couple years ago, back when Bullet Club ruled the world, okay, how amazing would it have been to see the Guerrillas of Destiny versus the Usos in a fantasy match? Something like that. How great would it be? Now you get this going in with AEW. Who's over at Impact right now?
The Good Brothers.
The Good Brothers,
Yeah.
exactly. So you get to put them with Omega. This way you can let the Young Bucks stay face and everything. You get them to do the cleaner thing, the New Japan stuff. Have them run that little bit of stuff out. You can do
This
a
is
whole
crazy,
bunch of-
right? You know who else is at Impact, Tyler? Paul Lee. Imagine the AEW matchups with Paul Lee. Woo! Anyway, go ahead, Sean. No, I'm with you on that. That's
If
mind
they
blowing
want to do a
stuff.
crossover and Shop-A-Mania, it could happen. But,
Exactly.
I'm all about that. Let's do it. No.
but any rate, getting back to that, but I just think that you're going to see matchups now. Like let's go look at the women's division. Jordan Grace versus Hikaru Shida.
Mm-hmm.
That would be
Yeah.
a great match to see.
Well, no, I
You
mean,
know?
if you take Impact's women's division, you put it in AEW. I mean, and you're right. There's certain parts about the tag division and Impact with the North. I think there's definitely something there. There's something there. There's no question. If you add New Japan, then you have these huge matches that you can put on widespread American pay-per-view with Jim Ross commentating. I mean, there's no question. It opens up an insane world of professional wrestling.
Can we just have Suzuki come in and murder somebody?
Do it.
Like, I would
one of
love
your
that.
one of your top 10 wrestlers of all time, well earned, top 10 wrestlers of all time. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's go to Ivy. Ivy, the world of professional wrestling is changing. They're aligning, maybe in a huge alliance against WWE. What do you think about it?
I think it would be good. I mean, just like thinking about that, going back to our last podcast about Survivor Series, how we were kind of talking about how the whole thing just felt a little bit stagnant this year. I kind of feel like, if they did like a crossover with all the different federations, that might be a good way to kind of vamp up things, because you've got different dynamics in each area. And like bringing out the best from each area and doing like those crossover matches, I honestly think that it would be great. It would be good not only for the fan base, because you've got people who pay attention to, all areas, and you have people who only pay attention to like one federation, but then you also think about the talent. Like, what would that open up for all of these different wrestlers to be able to kind of like, take on the best of the best and, utilize each other in the ring to like really just blow everybody out of the park. I think it'd be awesome.
No, definitely. You're definitely hit a point where you're definitely expanding the audience of certain companies, because if you get to see those guys on Wednesday night where there's 1 million people watching, suddenly their stock improves. Amy, let's go. I have a couple things I want to say, but I'll wait till the end. Amy, I'm the host today.
I got
I'm
one
Ted.
more for you too.
Yeah, I'll kick it right back to Sean. Amy, go ahead. Tyler, you're gonna have to wait.
That's fine.
Wait. Stop talking back. Go ahead, Amy.
So yeah, I think this partnership is great. Like, I think it's going to give the wrestlers a lot more freedom. They could try to work with people in different promotions, people that like dream matches that they want to see, and also work with themselves. And I, like Ivy was saying, I'm hoping that this alliance, and because they're going to be putting on great matches, is going to kind of light a fire under WWE's ass and make them try. Because sometimes I feel like they just don't try anymore. So I'm hoping that with this conglomerate of promotions, like challenging them for TV space and ads and everything like that, it's going to make that motivate them to do a little bit more. And then I just hope that obviously this is the wrestling industry, and I think it has changed for the better. I hope egos don't get in the way, because when you have two promotions, like sooner or later, it's going to be a competition. So let's hope that it stays this nice.
Egos don't get in the way. Yeah.
In wrestling, yeah, I know.
In
it's
professional
hard.
wrestling.
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
but I'm
Hot dog,
optimistic.
kid.
Sean, go ahead. What was your note before I take
I
it
was
to the
gonna
mouth
say-
of the South?
My note was everything. I was just going to say, go back and, one of my favorite things to watch is the G1, in New Japan. Imagine doing a G1 with these super shows combined, where you have the A blocks made up of Impact stars, the B blocks AEW.
Mm-hmm.
You know, doing that kind of thing, like how
Imagine
insane that
a
would be.
joint WrestleMania show with all 4 companies just going
Right.
crazy, wrestling
That
each
would
other
be
for
something, yeah.
some sort of belt. You know, the tournament. Exactly. There's a lot of amazing things it could be. Yeah,
Right.
I'm excited for it. Let's go to the mouth of the South.
No, I just think you guys made some great points. Competition. That's what we're missing. I know it's a different era, but you can go back to the Monday Night Wars, even Jim Crockett with Vince competing. Wrestling's always needed that, and I think it's awesome. I'm just going to piggyback on what you guys were saying, that it's good for all the promotions to work together. Ref Amy is very intelligent. Great point that Vince and Triple H, hey, they get complacent. As good as they are, the talent they do, I can tell that. But and that's all I got. I'm just gonna be peaceful. That's really. I'm not very knowledgeable. I've had my coffee, but that's not working. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think all four of you guys came up with like incredibly positive, awesome things that potentially could happen here. But I'm again gonna have to play completely devil's advocate, and I want to talk about something called the USWA. And here's the thing: when you start to bring all these people together, it's not just about money; it's also egos. Like there's clear reasons why certain guys went to Impact Wrestling and they didn't go to AEW. And now you're telling those guys they're going to have to work an AEW show, or they're going to have to work guys at AEW or whatever. Okay. So you're going to have these egos that are going to be like, what's going on here? Here's another thing. So they're all working together, right? So if Ethan Page wants to jump to All Elite Wrestling, what if he wants to leave and go to another company? Well, they could say, well, don't pay that guy. Because you can use them already. So it's a lot of things that are like, and here's another thing. So they're going to all come together to take down this big WWE. Well, what about if 3 years from now, the WWE just smacks them all down and just destroys them? Now you're awakening a sleeping giant, like you said, and the WWE can just go buy Impact. I mean, I maybe Tony Khan already did, but I know the Fight Network are not in love with their investment at this point. I know that they're more than $1 million down. So you have a billionaire and another billionaire who are really the players in all of this. New Japan is kind of the outlier in all of this. I think it might do a lot of harm to the wrestling business. And I hated the angle going to Kenny Omega. Yeah, does it make sense because his quote unquote uncle is the Jackal Don Callis? His uncle's Don Callis, but he's running away with the belt. That's not the Cleaner. That's the Miz. It looked like Kenny Omega looked a lot like the Miz to me. And it would be like the Miz running to a bus saying, hey, see me on Tuesday night on CCW Live Wrestling. Cause I thought it was hilarious that the All Elite Wrestling is even talking about Impact Wrestling. So it was just a weird ending. It's intriguing, but I am very pessimistic at the future as a wrestler, at the future of being able to negotiate with these companies because they're working together. And what's to stop at this point AEW from absorbing most of their larger contracts? So we know what WWE is going to do. If you listen to their media calls, they're putting money to start an NXT in Japan and an NXT in Europe and other stuff like that. Like NXT in Europe wasn't a great success so far for some different reasons, but they're putting a lot of money there. And what you're going to do is you're going to have this war, and wars have winners. And we might see some detriment to, I don't think AEW, because they have a billionaire who can lose as much money as he wants in it. But I think it might be a huge detriment to New Japan, to Impact Wrestling. And the NWA doesn't even exist to me at this point. I mean, I didn't watch Shockwave, but so I think we might be in a weird time in professional wrestling. But the real me, the non-devil advocates me, I'm really excited to see the Good Brothers and the Elite and everything. I'm just trying to say what I think might happen, and I say we get the USWA back together again. I think you put the belt on Lawler. He's looking great.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Jerry Lawler's looking great. Absolutely. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I put a spin on what you're saying. I could see how it goes on one side, but then I could also see how it goes on the other side. You're Ethan Page right now, like you were saying. Okay, I signed this deal. But now you're telling me that I can get TV time on Wednesday and sell more gimmicks over here as well. So,
that's true.
There is.
Well, yeah, that was something that Ivy said that's so true. Is you have guys, you have some of the undercard, at Impact Wrestling that are like, oh my God, I'm going to be seen by somebody, like I'm going to be seen by potentially 900,000 or 1 million people. But you also have Rich Swann, who's now, it's like, oh, let's put the dream match of the AEW champion versus the Impact Wrestling champion, and it wouldn't even make a pre-show of a WWE B pay-per-view. Rich Swann and John and Kenny Omega. So it's you have to look at those situations too, and like, man, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot. We could be here all night talking about it. Mm-hmm. But it's a weird, it's interesting. It's going to be a lot of stuff for us to talk about. I'm interested in seeing it in reality, my real life, personal self, not, playing devil's advocate. I think it could be great, but I think WWE will just smack them down like they do everybody else.
Well, like you were saying, the thing that makes it interesting is, like Tony Khan has more money than Vince McMahon, so it does make it interesting.
It does, yeah, and AEW is leaner, but WWE makes 100 million, more than approximately about 100 million in profit, and from everything that has been said so far, AEW is bleeding money. Now, again, if you bleed, let's say $5 million a year to a guy who has $1 billion, it's no big deal at all. So it's not like an emergency situation, but it's something. Okay.
I think you saw the Jaguars first.
Yeah. No, I think
Jesus.
I think Tony Khan, from anything that I've seen from him or like from heard of or people who've known him and stuff like that, like he is all in. He really is all in. So I don't expect AEW to go away ever, but I don't know if it's ever going to have brand number B and C and brand through A through Z like the WWE realistically could within the next 40 years. They could be in every country running on their own networks, on multiple networks, where I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They have a head start, and I don't know if AEW is going to get there. So
I wonder if Impact was like this backup plan, because they were plans before COVID to have like the B show for AEW. And I wonder if Impact was, they were just like, instead of creating our own show, why not partner with somebody? Yeah.
Well, I thought that idea for the NWA, because Billy Corgan, he didn't pay a ton for that NWA intellectual property. So if he could license it to Tony Khan, it's a win-win. And with Dave Lagana not allowed to be part of wrestling anymore, and him being his right-hand man, I thought that was just a perfect situation where Tony Khan can make the B show. AEW presents NWA Power, or NWA, whatever you call it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
with a little Impact Wrestling or something like that,
A little bit of inside info before COVID hit. I don't think Impact was the initial target, because I know that there was heavy talks going on with a couple of friends of mine that are in Ring of Honor, between AEW and Ring of Honor, to have that crossover.
That makes a lot of sense too. Yeah,
that would work. Yeah.
Well, so we know it's all based on Tony Khan and his crazy wrestling fantasy of his. Saturday, 4:00 at Coastal Championship Wrestling CCW training facility. We have a seminar. Mr. Brian Cage will be in the house again. He's wonderful. It's also filming. Trained wrestlers throughout South Florida can also come. Sean, you can come on me if you can get down to South Florida Saturday. Come and enjoy the Swolverine, the Machine, Brian Cage. As a quick plug. I want to get to a couple more things before you go. Sean, you going to stick with us? I don't think I've done like one commercial break. Ted's going to kill me. How are we going to make any money this show? So we're going to go to one commercial break. We're going to come back. We have a viewer question. We're going to talk about a couple stuff. And then we're going to sing Kumbaya and decide, who the next president's going to be and take hallucinogens like Daniel Bryan. Did you guys see that? We'll be right back.
For 17 years, the dominant force in professional wrestling in South Florida has been Coastal Championship Wrestling. Join us every Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the best weekly episodic professional wrestling in America. This week on a live wrestling episode 12, the CCW Women's Champion Marina Tucker defends against the Chilean international sensation Roma. Don't you dare miss it.
Welcome back to the WWR Rewind Wrestling Radio. WWWR. I missed a W. Rewind Wrestling Radio. We're here with Sean Raymond, who's the MagFest Hardcore Champion. We have Ref Amy from Coastal Championship Wrestling, CCW Live Wrestling, 7 p.m. every Tuesday night on YouTube. You better subscribe, and subscribe and subscribe. And of course, the mouth of the South, Tyler Peters, the man over there at the Buzz, the man to see if you need to break a huge news story, the dirt sheet man himself, Tyler Peters, and of course, the temptress, which she's unstoppable, and she is you can't, she's undeniable, the temptress witch, Ivy. So guys, we have a viewer question from a great name. It's Lighting Hate Road. I don't know what that is. Lighting Hate Road. Road hates the lights, you know. Do you think, and this is a perfect one for Sean, so we'll start with you. Do you think there's a place in wrestling for high flying and extreme risk styles to mix with more classic grappling styles? And what do you think WWE is headed for more releases? Will the wrestlers stop casting on Twitch in fear of getting released? Well, number one, Lighting Hate Road, that's 3 questions, and we asked for 1, okay? But we'll allow it this time. Let's start with Sean. Do you think that there's a place in wrestling for high flying and extreme risk styles to be mixed with some traditional grappling styles? It's a good question.
I mean, I'm pretty sure we see that most of the time now on NXT and AEW.
I'm pretty sure we see it right now in every wrestling.
Right.
No offense to Lighting Hate Road.
No. But it's just like, you know, the perfect blend of that, honestly, to me would be, I'm going to bring up NXT. Look at that Walter and Ilya match and how old school that was and how they beat the living piss out of each other. And then you can turn around and watch Jordan Devlin do a 450. Or you can watch, you know, guys come in like a Johnny Gargano and do all the high-flying stuff that they want to do and still be technical. So absolutely, I think there's a mix. I think that's just kind of where we're at this day, is that you've got guys that are amazing athletic people that are under 6 foot. They can fly around. And then you've got guys like me that are a little bit up there in age that are 6'2" and 220 pounds that don't want to leave the ground unless they have to. I'd rather, you know, wrestle somebody or punch somebody or kick somebody.
Yeah, my answer to that is that's professional wrestling, dude. I mean,
Right.
what does Eric Bischoff say? It's like a variety show, right? Tyler, your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. It is variety, but I still miss some of the old Southern wrestling naturally. But no, seriously, though, it does. You got to have a balance, and there's not much else to add. I agree with those points. I don't have.
How about let's go to Ivy. Like we saw that Thea Trinidad, who was released because of her OnlyFans, and also that she refused to stop twitching. No, she refused. Is that what it's called? Twitching? She refused to stop streaming on Twitch. And what do you think? Like, is that an overstep of boundaries for the WWE?
I mean, the part of me that's just an independent person myself would be like, who the F do you think you are, you know, telling me what I can and can't do? But at the same time, when you sign that type of contract, you kind of have certain clauses in there that you have to follow. And you know that going into it.
Right.
So, I mean, is it so much an overstep? I want to say yes, me personally, but from a business standpoint, I kind of understand why they would go the route of the release, especially with her, you know, being adamant about not wanting to, you know, discontinue her twitching or whatever it is that we're calling it.
Her Twitch account, her streams.
But then on that note, speaking of OnlyFans, since Ted isn't here, we haven't heard any other comments about OnlyFans. So I just
so subscribe to Ivy's OnlyFans. We'll put a link in the comments.
Going to help us, you know, post bail to get Ted out of federal law.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we need to get like really high flying attorneys. Because Ted's in trouble. You know, he rolled up there at about 4 a.m. and he just fed 450,000 votes in Pennsylvania. Sean, tell me about your OnlyFans. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, if I made an OnlyFans, we'd end up owing more money. But, jokes aside, no, I think that I'm on the opposite side of Ivy on this one. And it's the fact that when you're a wrestler, as most of you know, WWE, they 1099 them, the contracts. And with the 1099, it says you're an independent worker, and you're an independent worker under this name. So, you know, they don't want to give them insurance. They don't want to do this. They don't want to do that under their real name. Then sure, why can't they have a cameo? Why can't they go stream on Twitch and do something under their real name and make
Yeah.
extra income on the side. You know,
Yeah.
if they're not doing it as, you know, perfect example, but I know his is a little different because I know from actually meeting and talking with him, Austin Creed has it in his contract for up, down, down. Like he negotiated that with Vince.
Hmm.
He
And
negotiated
I
all
Thank
know,
that.
God.
yeah, I know for a fact a few guys
Okay.
who had amazing forethought, like Austin Creed, was Xavier Woods, and MVP, and a couple people to have completely different contracts than what we hear in the media. And I don't think it's spoken about a lot. It's like when Andrew Yang is talking about, oh, the WWE is taking advantage of these contractors and this, but I think lately a lot of the boys have smartened up and have asked for certain things, and the WWE has complied. So it's not across the board anymore. The contract that we hear of, you know.
So
It falls
here's the thing though.
cards right, really. I mean, if you think about it, like you guys are saying, you know, there's certain negotiations prior to.
Well, here's the thing in the terms of Selena Vega or Trinidad, you know, using her real name now, is that she was on a contract before AEW came into existence.
Right.
So she was on that low end contract before the big money contract started killing out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is
They-
true, but she said that she was making more on her Twitch and her OnlyFans
So-
than her
Yes.
professional wrestling career,
So
which makes me really interested about Twitch and OnlyFans.
So I don't know shit about the OnlyFans stuff, but with Twitch, I got a couple friends that are in the gaming community that do the live streaming. You have a subscription base, and the minimum subscription base is generally $5 a month. She had something around like 300,000 fans. So you get that just at the minimum for $5 a month.
So we don't have to feel
Taxes.
bad for her. She just made an incredibly smart business decision. And
Yeah.
she's
She's making
happy,
all
I
that money
think.
on the side instead of, you know, the $60,000 or $80,000.
She can
year
buy
deals
some
she has
writers
with
to
it.
write creative for her husband. I think that's what she should spend that
God.
money
They're
on.
not doing anything with it. Yeah.
God, there's a good question. You know, I'll throw this one out to you. Who's being more critically underrated right now in WWE? Aleister Black or Chad Gable?
Oh wow!
Oh.
Yeah.
Which one-
Oh, that's
which
a
one
good
would
one.
you-
That's a
I
good
mean,
one.
truthfully,
Yeah.
it's Aleister Black just because he physically looks better. But yeah, Chad Gable's it's criminal.
Right.
Yeah.
Abel's
yeah.
being
Shorty G.
abused.
Right.
It's criminal. That
He
should be,
is.
you know. Luckily, we live in Florida. Nothing's criminal here in Florida. Those contracts are written in Florida, pal.
Oh,
We're the
gosh.
Wild West. But yeah, it's kind of a crazy thing. So my answer is yeah, that's professional wrestling. And then the last thing is WWE headed for more releases? And I think it's the opposite. From what I'm hearing, there were 5 new signees today, and expect a very steady stream of signees of independent talent suddenly from the WWE for whatever that is. Maybe they knew something was going on, but expect a lot more talent. And I think you can expect them to. Anytime a AEW or a New Japan star comes up, expect them to throw some big money contracts at them to disrupt with whatever's going on. So thank you so much for lighting Hate Road. Again, next time, one question, please. Okay, so last couple things before we kind of wrap up. I want to again thank Sean Raymond. So awesome. If you guys saw a clip, I think it was on the Total Bellas show. I never miss an episode. And Daniel Bryan was explaining how, as of recently, he's really gotten into hallucinogens, which kind of blows my mind because you think about, I never thought of pro wrestling and hallucinogens, but with a guy like Daniel Bryan, who his style transcends, professional wrestling, it made me think like maybe in terms of spacing and timing and all that stuff, maybe hallucinogens might be the way to go, you know? So I can just imagine Daniel Bryan saying, hey man, did you ever knee somebody in the face? Well, did you ever knee somebody in the face on shrooms? so hallucinogens and Daniel Bryan in professional wrestling, does he just not care? Does he just want to put all that stuff out there? Let's talk about it, Sean. And are you a hallucinogen guy, even in a younger time?
No, I can honestly, it never really was. My biggest thing, sorry to be boring to most people, as much drug use as I was around with people like an Axel. And
Right.
stuff
I was
like
going to
that.
say, you don't think Axel Rotten was maybe hallucinating sometimes next to you?
Oh,
maybe it was closer to the end, right?
I was gonna say maybe it was a little bit of a lot harder stuff, unfortunately.
Oh,
but
unfortunately, that's right.
But no, I've only been
You're such
really,
a downer, Sean, man. I'm trying to make a joke, and you're like, no, he was a serious drug user.
well, if you're gonna
Like-
go with that, you're gonna go with that. Have you met my tag partner, Marty Emmerich? I mean, he might be on the shrooms. I don't
He's
know.
on the shrooms. Okay, good.
I don't
good.
know. I
Let's
actually
leave
do.
Marty alone. I love Marty.
I love Marty to death too. Marty's great.
But he's on the shrooms. Nothing wrong with that. So is
No,
Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan's
I-
one of the greatest wrestlers of our generation.
I don't think Marty actually is, but I just love how he gets into this headspace for some of the stuff he writes and he tells me about. I'm like, what? Where did that come from?
Yeah, but I mean, pro wrestling is you have to have. It's a creative endeavor.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, it's you're telling a story with your body. And Tyler's on shrooms right now.
I am. Yeah, absolutely. That's what gets me going. That gets me through my day. Shrooms. There's nothing like it. And it makes me dream about Memphis wrestling. Hey, now you've got. I really am. I'm stoned worse than I can say. We've got to edit this show. My God. What are we
No, I'm
talking?
going to edit that into every show. What are you talking?
I don't know.
Sean, back to you.
No, Amy, you seem like a girl who like maybe experiments some like hallucinogens in a younger age. No, am I the only one? Am I?
I'm gonna plead the fifth because I don't know who's
Okay.
watching.
I
My
guess
parents
you're right.
watch this,
I
so
guess
this
you guys
gets
are
weird. But no, Daniel Bryan's not really surprising because like he's into all that natural stuff, and I follow him on Instagram and I have been for a couple of years now, and he also does this book club thing, and a lot of the books are about like hallucinogens and like how it affects the minds and stuff. He's into like obviously with his brain injuries, he's into healing his mind.
Yeah,
So-
I think that's kind of where it's going. Where he's going to talk about things like ayahuasca and other stuff like that.
Hey,
that
Eddie,
He's to be on Joe Rogan now. This is
Yeah.
the time for him to be on Joe
Oh
Rogan.
yeah.
I could see,
absolutely.
if Daniel Bryan has ever tried DMT, I can see that too. It's an 8-minute
Exactly.
intense, like out of body experience. And if you're Daniel Bryan, I mean, you want to experience all bodies, right? I guess. I don't know. Ivy, tell me your hallucinogenic experience in the past and what you felt about Daniel Bryan getting into hallucinogens at such an old age.
No, honestly, I think it's cool. I'm very like I'm a very holistic person myself. So any type of like natural remedy. I've read up a lot of different studies about like microdosing shrooms to help cure depression. And
Absolutely.
I think he could be onto something. I myself in my younger days may or may not have taken a couple trips of my own.
Sure.
The thing is, it affects everybody differently, just like any type of drug does. So I think depending on the person and what their tolerance is, what their mindset is going into it, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if we didn't have more wrestlers that were actually, delving into that type of area, because once
Yeah.
again, the way that it affects the human psyche, the creativity aspect of it, like I could totally see it and I wouldn't knock it.
The Temptress Witch, you have convinced me 100%. So December 19th at the Jingle Brawl NAWA on Fight TV, $9.99. You can order it right now. I may be on shrooms during my match.
You're about to get
You
a
can
call
put that-
saying
you can put
you
that
are
out there
canceled the booking.
At the Ocean Center. I'm saying buy a ticket because I might be out of my mind in a tag match. It'll be myself, the Brazilian Giant Venetius, and Ariel Levy, the South American Alliance, Beauty and the Beast, if you will. And the Beast may be on shrooms. So buy it on Fight TV right now. Hopefully that sold a couple. Okay, guys, last thing before we kind of wrap up. I wanted to talk about, I think, a big problem that we have now, and that's stepping stone heels. I know it's kind of anticlimactic. We just were talking about shrooms, and now we're going to talk about John Tenta and Bam Bam Bigelow and King Kong Bundy and Don Morocco and some other, and Tugboat. But the fact that wrestling needs these stepping stone heels, and me as a kid to see these baby faces go over them. But you know what? Let's end it on shrooms, guys. December 19th, Jingle Brawl. I'll be on shrooms. I'll be wrestling. Check that out. Also, CCW Alive Wrestling every 7 p.m. Tuesday on YouTube. I may or may not be on shrooms during that. And then January 9th at New Year's Revolution for Coastal Championship Wrestling. Depending how the Jingle Brawl goes, I may be on ayahuasca or DMT. That would be an insane trip.
I'm not reffing your matches.
Yeah, Amy will be reffing my match, and I will just be staring into the audience in abject horror and fear. or the cameras. So tell us, Sean, tell us your social media, tell us, promote what you have coming up. And we hope to have you back soon. Sean, tell us a little bit about what you got going on.
Unfortunately, in COVID world, I don't got too much coming up in the way of matches right now in Maryland because we're kind of still very much locked down with one of the most stringent commissions out there. Social
Frickin'
media
Maryland.
stuff. Yeah. Social media stuff. I'm going to be doing a lot of training still with EWA. I'm going to be doing a lot of going up and training with ACPW, going back and forth between
Great.
the two main companies I work with.
Yeah, so if you want to become a pro wrestler, check those companies out because you'll be working with Sean.
Yeah, social media, basically my Instagram's The Real Sean Raymond. My Facebook's more of a personal one now because nobody really uses Facebook. My Twitter's also Real Sean Raymond. But Instagram.
Yeah, friend him on Facebook. Check out his cousins, his aunts. See how they're looking and stuff.
Right.
That's what
And
we
the
all do.
arguments.
Not me, but some weirdos, I'm sure. But no, don't do that. But check out Sean, and then
But
hopefully
mainly
some shows
Instagram.
coming up, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna hopefully get a couple tapings. I mean, I got one coming up taping wise for a place called the Bombshell Wrestling Alliance out in Virginia. That's supposed to be sometime later this month. But
Yeah, the BWA. Yeah. That sounds
Yeah.
awesome.
I don't have a date for that yet. That's just in talks. So hopefully that actually gets greenlit and we can go
Good.
through.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, Tyler, tell us about the buzz. Tell us about your new job.
Yeah, so we're getting ready to launch a website. It's pretty much a sports, wrestling, you name it, we've got it. It's
Tyler, can I give you an advice?
What?
Go in there and ask for a percentage right out the gate.
Percentage? Okay. Hey,
Say,
guys,
man,
by the
just,
way.
you gotta look. I'm Tyler Peters. I'm gonna write all
I'm
your
on
freaking
shrooms,
articles. I'm
yeah.
gonna.
There you go. Well, you brought that up.
I gotta be your agent, Tyler. Get me in a meeting with these guys.
Okay, I will.
I'll rough them up a little bit. Now we have this Zoom thing. I'll
I
tell
know
him,
it.
look, I said, I know where you live. Tyler told me your address is. Give this guy 10% of your website. You're gonna
I
do all
know.
the work, Tyler. You do all the work.
I'm not sure about that. It's a team effort. You're putting me over too much. You headbutted me, and it's not made me that much
No,
smarter.
that wasn't me. That was the
Oh, it
Brazilian
was.
giant.
Yeah, it was.
You can
That's
find
true.
Tyler Peters in the buzz. Tyler, give us your social media as well.
It's at Dustin Tyler 86 on Twitter, and that's really where I'm most.
And
active.
Tyler has a voice like an angel. Sing
I
like
don't
the
know.
first part of Amazing Grace.
You want me to sing?
Just a couple of bars.
I
You have a no.
practiced.
This is not me making fun or anybody. You have a
I
really
know.
good voice.
I haven't practiced, but I'll just go. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound.
Perfect.
That's
Wonderful.
it. See,
Wonderful.
there you go. I can't really. I'd have to practice it to find.
No, it was fine. It was on the spot. I put you on the
Yeah.
spot, and you delivered. Ref
Yeah.
Amy, tell me what you got coming up. Oh, sorry, Tyler. Well, you're gonna finish up.
No, go to her. No.
Tyler, you can also find him on Christian Mingle,
Oh, jeez.
J Date, just to be sure
Right.
as well.
Okay. Go to Ref Amy.
Let's go to Ref Amy. What's your account on? Do they have the account on Tinder? If we can just put it in, is that how it works? I think it's T Money Pete. Ref Amy, go ahead. What do you got? coming up?
July 9th in Fort Pierce, we have, was it New Year's
January 9th,
Revolution?
New Year's Revolution.
Yeah, January 9th. In Fort Pierce, I'll be there reffing and hopefully getting some retribution. We'll see.
Yes,
That's
tell me,
happy account.
you cut a promo against La Brava. You had a Colombian wrestler, La Brava, attack you last week at Breaking Chains, and I thought that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
How did that feel? Attacked?
Yeah, I took a nasty cutter. Like my head was hurting for the next couple of days. Yeah, it was totally uncalled for. I'm hoping that our boys, Pacha and Vince, show Controversial Inc. what's up, and maybe I'll be able to get some revenge on La Brava with their back turned.
Love it. What's your
'Cause I'm a
social
ref.
media again?
Sucker Punch News on Twitter, and then Instagram is Nasty Pasky.
Nasty Pasky. Oh, that's funny. It's similar to my name. And then, of course, the Temptress Witch. Tell us what you're promoting this week and your social medias and your OnlyFans and your new Twitch. She literally opened a Twitch while we were on the show. How crazy.
Well, like I said, OnlyFans proceeds are going to go to help us bail out Ted. So hopefully he'll be back with us next week.
Hopefully we'll be back next week and not in a federal prison yet.
Yes, let's hope. my Instagram, I actually just changed my tag on there. So it's at Ivy, the Temptress Witch. So you can go ahead and find me on there. Facebook, I do have a Facebook page. It's just Ivy. And I do have a Twitter, but I don't really use it too much, but I'm going to kind of revamp that. So I'll have the tag for you guys next time.
She's going to clean up all those old tweets, and then she's going to give us the tag afterward. Very smart, Temptress. Very smart. Guys, thank you guys so much. This has been this week's episode of Rewind Wrestling Radio. Thank you so much, Rashawn Raymond. We got to have you back. All the usual characters will be back, including Ted. He'll be breaking out of a federal prison ASAP. And thank you so much for watching. We will be back.